Join us for the Fanatical Prospecting Bootcamp that will help your team 5x their pipeline in 90 days or less. We'll be hosting it on March 10th and 11th in Atlanta, Georgia. Go to salesgravy.com/live. That's salesgravy.com/live and use the code podcast to save $100.
This is Jeb Blunt, and it's Money Monday on the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Say, make money, money, make money, money, money. Make money, money, make money, money, money. Money makes the world go round. I'm the talk around town. Remy gave me the sound.
It is Monday, another week in which to excel. And it's important to start your week strong because when you start strong, you tend to finish strong. And speaking of strong, one of the ways to become stronger is joining me at the Outbound Conference. Outbound is the biggest, baddest sales and leadership training conference on the planet. At Outbound, you'll learn from the world's top sales and leadership experts, and you'll get to network with other high performers just like you. To reserve your tickets and meet me at Outbound, go to outboundconference.com. That's outboundconference.com. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but there's a massive gap between what salespeople and leaders know and what they actually do. I've written 18 books. I've trained hundreds of thousands of salespeople. And I can't tell you how many times someone comes up to me and says, Jeb, I read Fanatical Prospecting. It's a great book, but that stuff doesn't work for me. Or they'll say, I tried that objection handling technique that you taught us, but it didn't work. So I went back to what I was doing before. But here's what they don't understand. The problem isn't the technique or the idea or the lesson. The problem is that they gave up too soon. You see, the brutal truth is that most people fail to implement what they learn. A couple of weeks ago, I was traveling for business, working with one of my client sales teams. And one afternoon, I decided that I needed some exercise, so I went for a walk. Along the way, I came across a skate park where kids were riding their skateboards and doing tricks. There was a bench nearby, so I sat down to watch for a while. Close to me was a group of young guys, probably 13 or 14 years old, and they were huddled around a phone watching a YouTube video of someone doing a skateboard trick. As they watched it, they talked about it, and then one of them threw his skateboard down and attempted the trick. He immediately fell off his board. The next kid tried, and he fell too. And then the next one and the next one. All of them failed to do the trick. So what did they do? Well, they went back and watched the YouTube video again, and then they threw their boards down and they crashed and burned again. But this time, slightly less dramatically than the first time. They repeated the process over and over. Watch the video, try the trick, fail, watch again, try again, and fail a little less badly. Until finally, one of them nailed it. And when he landed the trick, they all erupted, clapping, fist pumping, and cheering. And once one kid got it, the rest of them started getting it too. They practiced and practiced until they had the trick nailed down, and then they went back to YouTube to find another trick to learn. Now, at that point, I got up and headed back to my hotel. But as I was walking, I couldn't stop thinking about what I just witnessed. How often do we do the exact opposite in business and sales? We read a book, watch a video, listen to a podcast. We hear about a technique or a concept that sounds really good, and we think, yeah, I'm going to try that. So we give it a shot. And when it doesn't work perfectly the first time, we say, well, this doesn't work for me, and we give up and never try again. Or even worse, we read the book, we feel really good about the concept, and then we put the book down and never even attempt it because we've already convinced ourselves that it won't work for us. But here's the thing, those kids at the skate park didn't look at that trick and say, this looks hard, it probably won't work for me. They looked at it and said, we're going to figure this thing out. And they understood something that most adults had forgotten. Just because you read about something or see someone else do it doesn't mean you're going to master it on the very first try. Now, as I was walking back to my hotel from the skate park, I was reminded of something similar that had happened to me over the holidays. I'd read an article in my newsfeed about making homemade yogurt. It looked interesting, so I got the recipe, came home, got some milk, and made an attempt. And I failed. My concoction didn't turn into yogurt at all. And my immediate reaction was, well, this isn't going to work, and I gave up and never tried again. But after watching those kids at the skate park, I realized the giving up too soon trap that I had fallen into. So when I got home from my trip, I went back, reread the recipe, walked back through the steps to figure out what went wrong, and I tried again. And this time, it worked. I actually made yogurt. You see, the recipe wasn't the problem. My execution was the problem, and I only figured that out by trying again. Here's the lesson. we are all susceptible to this human fallacy of believing that we can read something, watch something, or hear something once and then immediately do it perfectly. And when it doesn't work the first time or even the second time, we conclude that the technique is flawed or it won't work for us or our situation is unique and different. But the truth is that we gave up too soon and before we gave the technique a fair shot. That's just what it's like to be a human being. We are wired for overconfidence, instant gratification, and immediate results. And when we don't get them, we move on. And this pattern, it can absolutely kill your sales results. You read a book on prospecting, you learn a new cold calling technique, you watch a video on objection handling, you attend a conference or training and learn new ideas, and you try it once. Maybe it feels awkward or the prospect reacts differently than you expected. Maybe you stumble over your words or get rejected. So you conclude that it doesn't work and you go back to what you were doing before, which, by the way, wasn't working either, which is why you were looking for something new in the first place. You see, here's what we're missing. Sales is and always has been a numbers game. Statistics and the law of averages matter. Even the best techniques don't work 100% of the time. That's why you have to use them enough times to see the patterns and to understand what's working and what needs adjustment. Those kids at the skate park weren't just repeating the same failed attempt over and over, they were iterating. They'd try the trick, fail, and then make a small adjustment. They'd watch the video again and notice something that they missed the first time. They'd talk to each other about what went wrong and what to try differently. You see, that's the process. Try, fail, learn, adjust, and then try again. But see, most people skip the learn and adjust part. They just try, fail, and quit. Let me give you a sales example. Say you're trying a new prospecting email template. You send it to 10 prospects and you get no responses. The try, fail, quit people conclude that the template doesn't work. But the try, fail, learn, adjust, try again high performer would ask, well, did I send it to the right prospects? Was my subject line compelling? Was the timing right? Did my call to action make sense? And should I test a different version? They'd iterate, make small adjustments, and try again. And then they test different variables with enough prospects until they figured out what works. You see, that's what separates top performers from everyone else. They don't give up after one attempt. They iterate until they succeed. Now, here's something else those kids understood. If someone else is doing something successfully, that means it is possible. When they watched the YouTube video, they didn't say, well, that guy is just naturally talented. They said, if he can do it, we can figure out how to do it too. This is the success leaves clues principle. You see, if someone else is making something work, that's proof that it can work. Your job is to master their patterns and believe that you can make it work too. When you read a book like Fanatical Prospecting and you see examples of people who built massive pipelines using these techniques, that's not fiction. Those are real people who learn how to execute these strategies. When you watch a training video and see someone handle an objection smoothly, that's not magic. That's someone who's practiced that response dozens or hundreds of times until it became natural. The clues are there. The evidence is there. The question is, are you willing to put in the practice and endure the failures until you get there yourself? Here's the paradox that trips people up. You see, the techniques that work best often feel the most awkward at first. That's because they're different from what you've been doing, and anything different feels uncomfortable. For example, when I teach salespeople to slow down and use silence in negotiations, they hate it. It feels unnatural, and they want to fill the silence in with words. But the ones who push through that discomfort and practice using silence, well, they close bigger deals at bigger margins. And likewise, for example, when I teach salespeople to ask for referrals using a specific framework, they feel like they're being pushy or scripted. But the ones who practice the framework until it becomes conversational, well, they generate more referrals than they ever thought possible. The discomfort is temporary, but the results are permanent. But you have to get through the discomfort in order to get the results. Over the years, I've learned that there are 5 keys to implementing what you learn. First, you got to commit to practicing any technique at least 20 times before you decide if it works. Not once, not twice, 20 times. That's how long it takes to get past the awkwardness and start seeing results. Second, you have to track your results. You can't rely on your feelings about whether something is working. You got to write down what happened each time you tried the technique, look for the patterns, and notice what's improving. Third, you got to iterate. If something isn't working over multiple attempts, don't just abandon it, adjust it. Ask yourself, what needs to change? What variable can you test differently? Fourth, find somebody who's making it work and learn from them. If you are struggling with a technique that others are using successfully, reach out to them, ask questions, and watch how they do it. And fifth, be patient with yourself. You are not going to master anything instantly. It is okay to give yourself permission to be bad at something new while you're trying to master it. Now, before I give you my final thoughts and some homework for the week, I want to stop and thank you for making Money Monday and the Sales Gravy podcast part of your sales week. And if this episode inspired you, if our podcast in big or small ways has helped you sell more, please do two things for me. First, share it with your peers, your sales team, or your friends. And second, please take 10 seconds, literally 10 seconds, to give us 5 stars on your podcast app or a short review like this one from Dale on Spotify. Dale writes, "Love this podcast. I found so much value, motivation, and information in my short time listening. Thank you, Jeb." Well, thank you for listening, Dale, and I really appreciate you spreading the word about Sales Gravy. Now, here's your homework for the week. I want you to pick one technique that you've learned recently from one of my books, one of my podcasts, or if you've been in training with me. And I want you to commit to trying it at least 20 times this week. Now, track what happens each time. Notice what's working and what's not, and make small adjustments and keep going until you get it right. Because here's the truth. The techniques that I and my master trainers teach work. I know they work because we use them in our own company. We use them here at Sales Gravy. I know they work because I've seen thousands of salespeople use them successfully. I know they work because I use them successfully. But they will only work for you if you actually do them. And you have to do them more than once in order to master them. Those kids at the skate park, they didn't give up after the first fall. They kept going until they nailed the trick. And that's what separates winners from everyone else. Not talent or luck or some magical gift, just the willingness to try, fail, learn, adjust, and try again until you get it right. And remember, when you're tired, when you're worn out, and all you want to do is give up and go home, always stop and make one more call. Because that one more call is one more attempt, one more rep, one more chance to get better, one more step toward mastering your craft. This is Jeb Blunt, and I'll see you next time on the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Survival of the fittest, you can sink or swim. I've been broke, I ain't never going back again. I need some C-notes, some cheddar, and a stack of ends. I need a bowl of dough, I don't need no Facebook friends. I need a pack of them snaps, a handful of Fetty Wops, and rubber band on my greenbacks. Look, dawg, don't be playing with my paper. I need every red cent, that's why I brought my little scraper.